is an Emmy and Golden Globe nominated actor from Fargo. You're enjoying his work on Life in Pieces, currently on CBS. But you should check out what is debuting and premiering tonight here in Los Angeles, a documentary called All Things Must Pass, The Rise and Fall of Tower Records. The director of this, Colin, here on the program. What's up, brother?
Nice to see you, my friend.
How long have you been working on this again?
7 years. From the initial idea to the completion. There was a couple of periods where it sat on the shelf and was collecting dust. But yeah, 7 years.
Why did you decide to tackle the demise of Tower Records in a way?
I'm from Sacramento, where Tower Records originated, so there's a certain amount of civic pride. And when those stores were closing, I was talking with an old family friend of mine, and she had mentioned that Tower Records, the founder of Tower Records, Russ Solomon, started selling used 78s out of his father's drugstore in 1941.
Wow.
And I remember, it's clear as day, I said, that's a documentary. I mean, if it starts in, you know, classic soda fountain Americana, you know, sleepy Sacramento, California, and then ends with, you know, 192 stores around the world on 5 continents, there's got to be something there. Mm-hmm. And that initial hunch was proven right.
So who did you speak to for all of this?
We spoke with Russ, and you know, I spent a lot of time trying to come up with a concept and an idea to make sure that there was, in fact, something here. And then once I got confident in that, I reached out to Russ Solomon, and I met up with him for a lunch. And he said, "You're crazy. I don't know anyone who's going to want to see that, but let's do it. Why not?" Mm-hmm. Which tells you 2 things about Russ. One, he's always up for a crazy idea.
Sure.
And 2, he's the most humble man on earth, because there are so many people that worked at Tower Records, that shopped at Tower Records, and the store meant so much to so many people that he just always kind of deflects any praise or any idea that Tower was something that was special in you.
I just remember going into a Tower Records, and it would be an hour before I even thought about buying something. You know, that you would just sift through it, and it would be sort of like, to continue sounding old, like going into a spot to rent a movie, you know, and just trying to figure out what you're interested in, what you're looking for, what you're seeing. It would just, I would spend an hour in a Tower Records.
I mean, that was really one of the things that I think was really unique about Tower, was here's a place that it's a retailer. It's supposed to sell you things.
Right.
But it didn't matter what you looked like. It didn't matter how you dressed. It didn't matter what your tastes were. You could not only work there, but you could hang out there as a customer and not be forced to buy anything. So the doors were always open. So it was just as much as a place to hang out, a place to meet up, than it was just a place that tried to sell you stuff. And if you didn't buy something that first time around, well, maybe you come back and then you buy something else. And there was a knowledgeable staff person there who would say, oh, if you like that, you know, you should really go and check out this record. And next thing you know, you're leaving with 14.
It's called All Things Must Pass, The Rise and Fall of Tower Records. So why did why is there no more Tower Records? Is it as simple as the internet and iTunes? Or
no. One of the things I really tried to do is sort of pop that bubble of the myth that it was just simply Napster. Napster was definitely a part of it, for sure. But there were a bunch of factors leading into it that we sort of explore. Part of it was their own hubris, expanding into countries and places that really couldn't sustain big stores. Eventually, their stores got to be so big that you'd need a cherry picker in order to change a light bulb. That kind of business decision, that's not a really great business decision. But then there are also other things, too, that we analyze. The introduction of the CD. Remember those?
I know. It's crazy.
I even have a hard time remembering CDs, but when you introduce the CDs in 1980, well, that sets in motion a whole chain of events that ends up, you know, becoming a big problem that bites them later on. So there's a lot of stuff that we explore, but really, you know, the main crux of the film is the fact that Russ Solomon and these group of kids they're these people that came into the store as kids and worked for this company for 30 years and really became a family and accomplished something special. They really are the heart and soul of Tower Records, and they're really the heart and soul of the film.
Isn't it also, though, that we have like like right here on my desk, you in your pocket right now, a way that you can get your own music right now. You hit a couple buttons, and it comes actually on your device, and you plug it in, and it's there. So you don't have to go anywhere.
No, you don't
in a
have
way.
to go. No, you don't have to go anywhere.
It's unbelievable.
And
we sound old right now.
I know.
Right, Colin?
I know.
Doesn't it sound like we sound old
We do.
right now?
We do. We do. CDs. Remember those?
I remember the 8-tracks.
The 8-tracks.
Do you remember the 8-tracks,
the
Colin?
8-tracks.
Oh, the days of the 8-tracks.
The 8-tracks. I mean, there's so much stuff here. And again, this is a company that was around for 30, 40 years. And so there's a lot of history there that I think people are going to find interesting.
There's a lot, too, like a sporting goods store, right? Like, you could just go ahead and order your glove or the ball or whatever for your kid or for yourself online. But I've gone to a sporting goods store every now and then.
Yeah.
It's a total disaster.
It's really
like
kind of, they might as well have a tumbleweed.
That's the way I feel going in there. But I'm the type of guy that still, again, I'm sounding very old right now, but I like going into places.
Well,
I like going into places.
See, now this is one of the things about Tower, right? So when you go into a place now and you sort of go in saying, I'm going to support this business. I'm going to go support this store. Hey, do you have this, whatever it may be? And they go, no, we don't have that. They only carry like 2 or 3 things, Tower was known for having a huge, deep catalog of almost every record imaginable.
Right.
It wasn't just, hey, I'm looking for this one Miles Davis record and all they have is Kind of Blue. All right, yeah, now that's an old reference too, I know.
Yeah.
But, they didn't have just the most popular record by one artist. They had all the records from as many artists as they could get their hands on. So if you were looking for that obscure thing, you could find it just as much as you can find the popular one.
Sure.
Nowadays with stores, they don't carry the obscure stuff. They don't carry the hard stuff. And the amount of times you've been heard like, we don't have it, find it on Amazon. It's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, hits you in the gut.
Yeah,
it hits you in the gut.
It's kind of a bummer.
Certainly, since you're talking about something that you're so passionate about, All the Things Must Pass, the rise and fall of Tower Records in theaters tomorrow, October 16th. The debut premiere is tonight.
Tonight.
Here in Los Angeles.
In Los Angeles.
And you're having a whole big extravaganza in the spot where there was a Tower Records in West Hollywood.
Yeah, we painted up the old Tower Records on Sunset in the original colors, and we're gonna take the lady out and
take her for a spin.
Take her for one last spin.
And then
the proper send off, and then
And then it'll be in the bargain bin tomorrow morning.
It'll be in the bargain bin tomorrow morning. But yeah, out in theaters in L.A. and New York this weekend.
Fantastic.
And people can go to towerrecords.com to find out where we're going to be playing in the subsequent weeks.
And with everything, it's like having a wedding. What you've got right now, having a wedding, people calling you up. Tickets, this, that, the other thing. So I'm very appreciative that you're being here. And I understand asking you to stay another segment, what that actually means. So will you please stay another segment?
Of course.
Bless you, Colin Hanks. We're going to be back in 60 ticks of the clock. We're going to talk about your 49ers, how they look at 1-4. Yeah. We'll talk about your draftops.com pick 3 standings.
Yeah.
We'll get your, it's not, you say that much more enlightened than the actual 49ers.
Yeah.
You'd rather talk about that. It was well 9. Why not? And then the stepdad game.
I'm ready.
Okay. Colin Hanks is here in studio. Back in 1 minute. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. Colin Hanks, the director of the documentary All Things Must Pass, the rise and fall of Tower Records, also in Life in Pieces.
Yeah.
That's going gangbusters right now.
Very, very, very funny
show. CBS is America's most watched network.
Yes, that's
I
right.
hear that almost every single break during a football game.
I love hearing you say it, knowing that I'm on a show on that network.
Well, you're on America's #1 new comedy.
That's right.
That's what I hear.
It's true. It's true.
I love it.
I wouldn't lie about that.
I know. You're a very straightforward individual.
They have fact checkers for that kind of stuff.
I know. I know. Nance just doesn't come off the top of his head all willy-nilly tonight on Thursday Night Football.
When I emailed him, he said, don't worry, I'll let them know. I will let them know.
So what's going on with your Niners? Are you genuinely concerned that Kaepernick's not the right guy moving forward?
I am genuinely concerned, yeah. There is no doubt that there's a sea change that is needing to happen there. And as a fan, it's frustrating because you sort of get the sense that perhaps maybe a window is closing, and you want to be able to keep that window open, but there is also that feeling of, well, maybe we need to reevaluate things, and then maybe, just the sure reality of the situation is forcing your hand a little bit. I don't know what the fix is. I think he obviously is a very talented guy, but there is something going on here that, needs to be addressed.
It could be that the Kaepernick whisperer is wearing maize and blue right now. That could be the ultimate conundrum.
That would be that wouldn't be surprising if that's the case. Yeah.
You know, but they did look, at least against the Giants towards the end of Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
They put some pieces together.
You know, and
like...
even that first game, you would. I mean,
Right.
I was really shocked. I said, you know, despite these wretched black uniforms, I mean, this team's looking pretty good. But there's, you know, look, there's new head coach, obviously, a huge amount of new faces in there. I mean, they really lost quite a few people.
Yes, they did.
And there's a culture change going on in that locker room as well. So I think they're having to juggle a lot of things right now, and unfortunately, it looks like this season's going to be a little rough.
Colin Hanks here on the Rich Eisen show. And so do you root for the Mets tonight? Out of your New York,
I'm
your
having
San
a really
Francisco
difficult
Giant
time
love
here.
right
I'm
now?
absolutely on the Mets against the Dodgers for sure. I lived in New York for a few years, and I had season tickets, so I'm definitely rooting for the Mets.
Okay.
The problem is, how can we not all be Cubs fans? You know what I mean? I mean, that story is, if you are a sports fan, you got to be rooting for the Cubbies. So I'm rooting for the Mets tonight,
Okay.
but then if push comes to shove, I think I got to go Cubs.
But the Dodger fan, you never once, because your Sacramento upbringing, never.
I'm a San
never
Francisco
once,
Giants fan.
Never once did you think about Dodgers.
There was a brief period where I may have liked the Dodgers, but that was before, you know, I really knew what I was doing.
If the Dodgers are the ones that make it to the World Series, do you root for them over an AL team to keep your NL allegiances, or what do you do there?
Oh, see, now that's hard, because I would always go National League over the AL, because
Sure.
I just don't like the DH. But I don't, you know,
Can't
what?
root
You want to know what I root for? I root for tickets.
Attaboy.
There you go.
Good
I
for
root
you.
for tickets
Good
and
for
extra
you.
innings.
Good for you. If it's free, it's me, man.
That's
I hear
it.
you.
Yeah.
And now I know why you're doing this Tower Records documentary after hearing what you say about a DH. You're a purist.
I'm a purist.
You're a purist.
I
Like deep
am.
down to your soul.
I am.
You are a purist,
I'm
Colin
a little
Hanks.
bit of an old-fashioned
Let's now for the game. Let's talk about this game that we're about to play before we go to the draftops.com game.
All right.
Okay. So now you and your dad watch football, and for years this has been going on
It's
in the Hanks
probably
household.
only been maybe it's just been recently, maybe the last 3 years.
Okay.
Something like that.
So what happens?
We sit around, we watch the game, and whenever they have a shot of a head coach,
The cutaway.
we like to guess what that individual is like as a stepfather. Now, the concept here is
Sure.
that it's never a good stepfather. Really.
Never.
Never really a good stepfather. So it's playing with that convention a little bit.
Okay.
Ironically, I've never had a stepfather, so I'm just playing on cliche here. But we've had more fun playing this game in our house, and
Okay.
I know that it's taken this show by storm.
Well, I know you mentioned it on the podcast.
Yeah.
Your dad mentioned it on Letterman.
Yeah.
So you've done it for professional. Have you ever done it for college?
No.
Head coaches.
You want to know what? I will say this.
Okay.
It started in college.
How so? Who was the first? Who was the George Washington of this game?
Charlie Weiss.
Yeah.
When he was at Notre Dame.
So what stepfather was Charlie Weiss?
You want to know what? I don't remember.
I'm sure
don't
that's a
remember.
good thing for Charlie
Yeah,
Weiss.
for him it probably is. But I think we got some.
He was the inspiration, Charlie Weiss?
He was the
Okay.
inspiration.
Brockman, who's up first? Who do we have up first here?
First up, Alabama head coach Nick
Saban. What is he? What would taking a look at Nick Saban?
Nick Saban is the kind of stepfather that, regardless of how different he may seem to you, in every single Christmas card photo, his hair has been the exact same since he married your mother. It's never changed. The other part of this is he's also the kind of stepfather that wears dress pants and then a white tank top undershirt all the time, unless he leaves the house and then he puts on the dress shirt.
That's the stepfather Nick Saban would be.
Yes, that's the kind of stepfather Nick Saban.
Excellent. Who's next? Chris Brockman.
He just stepped down from South Carolina, the old ball coach, Steve Spurrier.
What about that,
Steve
Colin?
Spurrier is the kind of stepfather that really doesn't care about what your interests are. He just wants to tell you about all the stuff he found on eBay. I found a great little decanter for my collection. And I'm just really looking forward to spending more time on eBay.
So stepfather Steve Spurrier's decanter collection on eBay.
Yep.
That's the type
That's
of
all
stepdad
it
he
is.
is.
That's all it is.
Well, who's next?
Arguably a good stepfather.
By the way.
That's not bad.
That's right. That's
I'll
true.
Take that.
I'll take that one.
I'll
What do you
take
got?
that.
Ohio State head coach,
Oh, yeah.
Urban Meyer.
What sort of stepdad would Urban Meyer be?
Urban Meyer is a hard one. Urban Meyer is really the kind of stepfather that's just always kind of confused and can never remember anybody's name. It doesn't matter how many times your friends have been at the house.
Yeah.
He'll always call Bobby Stevie
Yeah.
and Stevie Jimmy.
Yeah.
He just is at a constant state of confusion. But unlike, say, Tom Coughlin, who was always just going, huh? Urban Meyer just doesn't care. He just doesn't care. Hey, Jimmy. That's not Jimmy, Dad. That's Bobby. Whatever.
Who's next?
Friend of this program, big game tonight, UCLA head coach Jim Mora.
You got a good one for Jim Mora?
You know, now Jim Mora is the kind of stepdad,
Yeah.
I think, that probably wants to tell you about just how magical his surfing was that morning. And how really, man, you got to spend more time in the water. Honestly, I mean, because if you look at him, you know, I know the sunburn is really because of all the time on the football field.
Yeah.
But something tells me it's like deep down he just wants to bring out his inner McConaughey all the time. All the time.
That's the type of stepdad that Jim Mora is. Do we have one last one?
Yeah, former 49er head coach, current Michigan head coach, Jim Harbaugh.
Be gentle here. What type of stepdad is Jim Harbaugh?
He's the exact same kind of stepdad that he was in the pros.
And that was?
You'd be having a conversation with him. You think it's going really great. And then he just all of a sudden gets a look on his face and he goes, "What was that?" And your heart just goes into your throat and you think you've said something horribly wrong. And you instantly start thinking about all the things that you could possibly be getting in trouble for.
That's
You know
the type of stepdad Jim Harbaugh would be.
Yeah. And I have a feeling there are a lot of players on that team now that are going to be feeling that, you know.
Yeah,
quite a
feeling
bit.
that right now.
Yeah.
Do we have Tom Sula? Do
Yeah, we have a bonus one.
Yeah, you got Tom Sula?
I've got this one.
What about your current Niner head coach?
He is the kind of guy that he will be having a conversation with you, and he'll never be looking at you. And he'll be going, "How's your day? You got a good day?" And you start telling him how your day was. And then he'll always go, "Hey, honey, what's for dinner?" No matter what you're talking about,
So
you can be bearing your soul.
Can we try?
Yeah, you'd be bearing your soul. Yeah.
So hold on a minute. So I'll be your stepson.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Richie, how was the day?
That was great, Dad. Let me tell you about what was going on.
Hey, honey, have you seen the clicker? Where's the clicker? I got. Sorry, Rick.
No. I just was telling you about what I was doing in school. Me and my friends, we had this great time.
Hey, did you throw out the paper, honey? I didn't finish that crossword puzzle. You threw it out? You got to have a talk with your mother.
Jim Tom Sula's stepdad, ladies and gentlemen.
Love it.
Oh, man. All right, Colin, let's get to your draft ops team. You've been kind enough to be part of the Friends of Rich
I'm having
League.
fun with it.
I'm having fun, too. It's simple. It's easy, right?
I'm enjoying it.
Okay, so let's put up the standings right now. You've been enjoying it to the point where you are in 4th place overall at 294.3 points, but we're all trailing Grandma Gloria Glassman. She is
Sounds
on top.
about right.
She is leading Brockman by 18 points. And there's Jake Tapper, who is lending some gravitas to this whole caper.
Yeah.
And he's at 3rd. There, you're 4th. Gillian Jacobs, who won 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's Billy Gardell, Jerry Cantrell. Page 2 is the sad spot where Law and I currently
Yeah, it's not
reside.
looking so good.
Stone Street, who joined a week late, he's in front of me. I'm 9. There's Chris Law 10. Manganello just keeps on choosing Steelers, which hasn't really worked when Ben's gone down.
That never really works.
Same thing with Snoop, who's behind the fan of the week. He joined 2 weeks late, but Rick Glassman, who has started straight from Jump Street, he hasn't even cracked 200 points.
Well, wait. Can we? Here's the first things I will say.
Yeah.
One, I'm glad I'm on page number 1.
Yes.
Can we get back to page number 1 because
Yes,
there's
sure.
something specifically I'm seeing.
Yeah, we'll put that up there one more time.
I'm almost on the medal podium. I'm like point.
You are on the outside of looking in on bronze.
0.6,
You
right?
are 0.6 or 0.58 points away from bronzing right
Well,
now.
then let's talk about this week.
Okay,
'cause
here
it's
we
an
go. Mike Del
important week.
Tufo, do you have the music here? Here is Colin Hanks in his Friends of Rich Celebrity League. Picks for week number 6. Who's your quarterback? What is your quarterback?
I got Tom Brady.
Me too.
This guy is playing with such a huge chip on his shoulder, as well as that entire team. I mean, is there any other team right now that is firing on all cylinders?
No, and there's no chips
as well
as large as the one that they have.
I mean, you got to go with him. He's
Okay.
a Hall of Famer.
Okay, there you go. Who's your running back this week? Colin?
Adrian Peterson.
Okay.
I'm feeling like he needs a big week.
Yep.
I feel like that has not happened yet, and I'm just waiting for that shoe
That
to
monster
drop.
200-yard.
He's due for that, and I'm hoping it's this week.
Okay.
Because I'm picking
Now,
him.
I like your wide receiver choice. I was thinking of going with him, and I may still do it anyway, but go for it.
I like the lineup. I like who the Texans are playing. DeAndre Hopkins, I feel, is going to be having a big game.
That's
a
not a
good
bad one right now against Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Okay, so Colin Hanks,
Jacksonville.
Tom Brady, Adrian Peterson, DeAndre Hopkins is your pick 3 lineup for week number 6. And you're playing for dropinthebucket.org. What's
Yes.
that all about?
Drop in the Bucket is basically delivers fresh drinking water to the people in need. It's a very simple subject.
Well, that's what Hasselbeck is trying to raise money for, too.
Yeah, I mean,
so that's good stuff.
it's the most basic of needs.
Well, we hope you do even better than you've done so far for that charity. DraftOps.com is the official daily fantasy website of the Rich Eisen Show, and we've got a great way for you to get involved, not only with this, but richeisenshow.com/draftops is how you can figure out a way to be joining Colin, myself, and everybody else here. It's simple to play, easy to win. Go to draftops.com, pick, watch, win. That's draftops.com. Again, I appreciate you coming in. You probably have 15 messages from people about tonight. How do I get my tickets? Where do I park? All of that stuff.
None of it matters because I'm sitting here with my friends. That's all that matters.
Thank you. All Things Must Pass, The Rise and Fall of Tower Records, directed by you, and theaters starting on both coasts tomorrow in Los Angeles and New York. And Life in Pieces, the #1 new comedy of not just CBS, but the entirety of America.
The fall.
Coast to coast, all 50 states, right?
fall.
It's not just the 48 right here, continuous.
No,
okay.
no.
It airs Monday at 8:30 p.m. On CBS, which is America's most watched network. You're a prince, sir.
Thank you, my friend.
Bet. You
You are
bet. That's
king.
Colin Hanks right here on The Rich Eisen Show. We'll get you set for Thursday Night Football and get you also set for our Friday program next on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.